Hi, Women Helping Women Entrepreneurs. It's Debra Morrison here, your financial coach at Women Navigating Finances. And today I'm going to talk about not all debt is necessarily a, a bad debt, or debt is not necessarily a bad four-letter word. So I want to talk about our relationship with debt because I think that's going to help us frame some of the challenges that beset a few of us entrepreneurs. And if you don't have any problems with debt, then perhaps you can just listen in for your friends. Now, ultimately, sometimes when the debt word is brought up in conversation, some people are very, very nervous, or it's shrouded in this kind of emotion of shame and embarrassment. And I want us to shed those negative interpretations about debt, because we can use debt in a favorable way. Yet first we have to understand the unfavorable ways and the favorable ways. So for many that have gotten themselves into a situation for a host of reasons, of a lot of consumer debt particularly, and they find themselves on a rat wheel, if you will. Now, this is exhausting. This is not happy making, and it's completely exhausting. So, if we're on that, I want us to get off of that, like now, like right away, because it behooves us to get our money relationship righted, right? In order for the other aspects of our personhood, our soul, our emotions, our physicality, because there are so many medical ailments that are rooted in dis-ease, lack of ease, and sometimes it's with our money. So, because debt is an antonym, if you will, of an asset, we mostly know what assets are. These are things of some value, right? Our intellectual property, our businesses, our wisdom, our intuition, etc. And then our laptops and our cell phones and our homes and our cars and our stuff. Now, a lot of us have been very sucked in to the add water and stir society, like the push the button and pick this next fun thing. Mine is kind of electronic gadgets at an Amazon locker near you. And see, this is the kind of temptation our parents didn't have. Yet we have it. And so we need to be wise to it. We need to be discerning in our minds about what is the best use of my money. So obviously each one of us has some money hanging around. I have some money for illustrative purposes hanging around, and not just $1 bills, as you can see, 50s and 100s. And I keep at least $1,000 in my home made up of small bills for emergencies. Like during 9/11, we were tipping people for various services, and it's helpful to have fives and tens, not just hundreds. So I suggest that you do that. But let's get back to how many of us have gotten into situations whereby we don't see an exit ramp. We don't see a hope to recover. And I'm completely about hope. I am completely about getting our arms around our assets and our debts, and shrinking the consumer debt, or what I call bad debt, so that we can actually look forward to our future years, because we know we're going to be able to finance them, right? We're going to be able to live in a fashion that we are comfortable. We certainly don't want to have a degradation of our lifestyle as we age. I don't think I've ever met anyone that wants that. So in order to ensure that, however, we have to set certain guidelines, if you will, certain tips and tools and strategies that we're conscious of, right? So let's bring this aspect of debt up to the conscious mind. And when we do that, we can deal Otherwise, we're just kind of like robots, like running around, like in the day, marionettes, and we're continuing to do the same thing. And so I'm going to ask you to rank yourself and write this down on a piece of paper, please. On a scale of 1 to 10, 0 or 1 being like not upset at all, completely happy-go-lucky, to 10 being completely depressed about things. I want you to rank yourself on how you rank yourself vis-a-vis your level of debt right now. 1 to 10, scale it. Now, if I gave you some tips to increase or to decrease that number, to decrease your stress around your debt, are you interested? Because if you're not, go do something else. So I'll lob these out for those who are interested, because who wants to be in these kind of stomach knot kinds of dilemmas with regard to debt? Now, some of us don't have any idea exactly how much we owe. We haven't totaled it up. So I'm going to invite you, first of all, to look at every single one of your credit cards, your lines of credit, your personal loans at the bank, for example, your car loans, your mortgage, and I want you to take your pen and pad or your Excel spreadsheet or whatever works for you. I wouldn't generally put it on a smartphone. I just think that's probably less secure, but I would love for you to write it down, because there's something tactile in this process that's quite important. So write down this Visa, this MasterCard, this Amex, etc., 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 and write down the totals of the amount that you now owe, the lump sum. Now, the reason I say some of us don't know how much that is because we've kind of acquiesced to this. Okay, I'll send this credit card $35 a month, and I'll send this one $10 a month, right? What are we aiming for? What are those payments going for? Now, I've often asked people that have accumulated a lot of debt, and sometimes swiftly, what did you buy with that? You got $4,000 out on this Visa card. What did you get for that? A lot of time people are scratching their head. I don't know, last May, Sometimes they know, often they don't. Like, if you get an Amazon package on your doorstep and you don't remember ordering it, that's a problem. So I want us to stop the leakage, if you will. Stop the carnage of our money just flying out the window, because I want us to grab hold of our money and invest in ourselves. And we cannot invest in ourselves when these $100 bills are being stretched to the point of almost tearing. Even these singles being stretched. Like, I need to pay off this monthly credit card, and I like to invest in my 401k, right? It's just only so many places any single bill, or no matter how many zeros behind it, can go. So when we choose to perpetuate a monthly payment into our outstanding debt, we are postponing the investment in ourselves, which postpones compounding working for us. I'll go you one further. Compounding is working against us in so much as that debt principal is accruing interest on top of that, and depending on how often, frequently, that annual percentage rate is being compounded daily, monthly, yearly, we could be amassing an insurmountable amount of debt unless we take on like a couple more jobs or get a huge pay raise, or we change our minds about our debt. So I'm hopeful that you can remember some of the things that whatever your consumer debt amount is, that amount paid for, because it would be valuable for you to heighten your awareness as to every single temptation, every single opportunity to spend money on yourself. You were to put that whole idea on ice for 24 hours, sleep on it. I know the marketing, trust me, I've paid groups of zeros for marketing. Limited time only until midnight. Get it. The world still turns on its axis. That offer will be back. Yet your life is speeding along at fairly rapid pace. And until and unless we women pay attention to our money, it doesn't have any opportunity to pay us back. If we're just turning a blind eye to a compounding debt problem, we are fueling that fire. And we can not even have to look any further than all these forest fires and these brush fires, these land fires that just consume acres and acres. Guess what? That is happening to us if we are not careful about managing our debt. Now, in a case of a physical fire, they bring out fire people, men and women. They bring out hoses. They bring out chemicals. They bring out artillery to fight it. But if we've been sitting blithely by and, yeah, send this one $30 and that one $15. Well, that's what you sent them a year ago. But in the meantime, you bought a bunch of other things. Now, enough said on that. Debt for consumer goods, little purchases, little conveniences, or necessities is not deductible. So we need to remember the intricacy of the tax code connection with our investments. And so to the extent that we're pouring a lot of money into debt, if you will, the cost of non-deductible interest, it's completely gone. We send those monies out and we're never seeing any return, unlike mortgage interest. So typically we buy a home, it's going to give us shelter. That's kind of really favorable, right? Generally speaking, over a long period of time, it's going to appreciate. Why do you think the U.S. Treasury and when they formulated the tax code, why do you think they gave people a tax deduction for interest on your mortgage payment? They wanted a lot of people to be self-sufficient as they age. The government can't afford to bail everyone out that hasn't saved. So at least you have a home, right? So the mortgage interest on your home, and it's ratcheted down to anything purchased after December 31st of 2017. You can deduct the interest on a $750,000 mortgage. That's a lot. If you get a 30-year mortgage, the preponderance of your first 3, 4, 5 years is interest. So just play with me a minute. If your interest is $10,000 a year, and which is probably a lot more, and you're in, let's just keep the math simple, you're in a 30% income tax bracket. When you fill out your tax return, if you itemize your deduction, you're going to say, okay, I paid $10,000 of mortgage interest, and then the calculator or your CPA is going to say, okay, you're in a 30% tax bracket. Uncle Sam just paid $3,000 of that $10,000 for your mortgage interest. Sweet. You only really net out a pocket $7,000 in my little example of $10,000 mortgage interest. So you see how it behooves us to be able to tax deduct interest that we're paying. So again, we can limit ourselves in terms of those this instantaneous, those kind of spur of the moment purchases that further get us into a well of debt that's hard to get out of, right? Here's this cardinal rule. If you've dug yourself into a hole, stop digging. That's the clue phone. Stop digging. Stop buying. That's why I'm saying put everything on a 24-hour hold. Next day you look at it again, you think, no, I don't think that's the best use of my money. I think because I was hit in this pandemic or other times without an emergency fund, I think instead of buying that extra gadget for $50 or $150 or any other amount, it's best if I put this aside for the next emergency, because not only will that pay for a portion of the next emergency, guess what? I sleep better knowing I have paid myself. I have taken care of something that otherwise depressed me at the beginning of the pandemic. Oh my gosh, I don't have any money set aside. What am I going to do? I lost my job. I got cut back. That's when you use your emergency fund. If you have it. How do you have it? You have to be smart as squirrels. Don't eat all the nuts. Like in the Northeast, they gather a bunch of nuts. They don't eat them all. No, they take them away and hide them, because when the snow comes, you can't find any nuts. When you get laid off, you can't find any nuts. You have to be smart enough to not spend every nickel that's coming in, generally on frivolous things, and save some of it for a rainy day in that emergency fund. Now, your car loan interest isn't deductible under the U.S. tax code, but If the brand of car you want is offering a 0% financing or 1% financing, you have to say to yourself, instead of taking that 10, 15, 20, $40,000 and buying a car, because I'm a little lean on my emergency fund, I think the better use of those large dollars is here, like in this proverbial pocket, and I'm fond of talking about cargo pants pockets. Different pockets hold different assets for different uses. So instead of spending that $7,000 for a used car or $30,000 for a new car, up front, get a 1%, 0% interest, and then figure out on your calculator how much you would be paying if that was charged at 4%, and put that monthly amount into your 401k or into a side emergency fund for yourself, right? So you can keep track of, I'll put in the links, the link where you can look at your credit score, because I want us to increase our credit score, our FICO, Fair Isaac's code. And that with that credit score, it's going to very much impact all of your life. I mean, people look at credit scores to hire somebody. It tells a lot about you. So you want to order one a year, and you can do it free. Don't go to any of these other chargeable links. That's ridiculous. You want to do it judiciously, and you want to look through it very carefully. Is this some work? Yeah. But did you feel poorly about your debt circumstance right now? If you did, this work is the work you want to be about, because this is the cure. This is the cure. So you're going to go ahead and write out all of the amounts that you currently owe, and then right beside it in a column, show me and show yourself the gross amount that the limit on your card, okay? And then the next column is going to be, you're taking the amount that you have out as a percentage of the limit. And it'd be 20%, 50%, 100%, something like that. Now, we're aiming for less than 50% of the limit on any one card, because that's going to ding your FICO score if you have more than 50% of your maximum limit already extended to you. So in the process of figuring out, instead of just that, $30 here, $20 here, we're going to assess where we are. And now anything that's over 50%, or the one that's the most over 50%, we're going to push a lot more money. And once we go through this 24-hour exercise and deferring this impulse spending, we'll have an extra $100 a week often, right? So go ahead and put that $100 into the principal payment of that and bring that down, right? It's not going to happen overnight. And yet, you know what's going to happen overnight? Your confidence is going to skyrocket, because you're no longer a marionette. Somebody else is calling your shots, and they're saying, oh, Susan, no, because you're behind, now we've raised your borrowing interest rate to 29,000%, right? I mean, I'm kidding, but it can be really onerous, and some of you are in those pinches. So oftentimes when we think of the rich, right, and that's really like, okay, how is that defined? We are maybe disgusted. We think they probably did nefarious things to get there, and they probably cheated, or maybe we're just slightly jealous. I like to do that. Well, you know what the rich do that the not so rich don't do? Is they, one, pay attention to their money, and when you pay attention to your money, it pays you back. The other thing they do is they use other people's money when it's financially conducive. So let's go back to our mortgage interest. Let's say we're paying, let's say we're even paying 3% interest on our mortgages right now, and you can probably get them for less. So you have 3% mortgage interest, and let's take that same 30% tax bracket. You basically take the 0.30 times your tax bracket times your 3% interest, and now you have 0.9 is really the relief you have from the government giving you that deduction on the interest from your gross 3%. So 3% less 0.9 is 2.1. So that's what that money is costing you with that little example. Now you say to yourself, can I get 2.1 in my 401k? I hope so. If you can't, call me. I'm not managing money anymore, but I'll certainly give you ideas about, how you can bring yourself to a better return. And so what is that? The benefit of it's other people's money. It's the bank's money. So if you're wondering, I'm buying this house, how much should I put down? Well, I don't like to pay PMI, principal mortgage insurance, primary mortgage insurance, even though it is deductible, as are points. Points are deductible. So interest on $750 of real estate indebtedness, and then interest on up to $100,000 of HELOC, home equity line of credit interest, if you use that home equity line of credit to build, modernize, and so forth. It has to be used for the enhancement of the home. That's a rule change, different from how it used to be. So ask your CPA what's deductible interest and what isn't. Now, you can only deduct your mortgage interest if you itemize. And some of you will be in a situation where, thanks be to God, you don't have the other accoutrements in that schedule to warrant your itemizing, because the other ones are property and casualty losses, huge medical expenses, hurricane damage, that kind of thing, right? Disasters, catastrophe losses. And so you might take the standard deduction, which in 2021 is $12,550. But you want to check this each and every year. So this year you might take the standard deduction. Next year, unfortunately, you have a lot of medical expenses. You might end up taking the mortgage interest deduction on an itemized return. So you can change it each year. So ultimately, I want us to think about our money. As always, think about our debt. Capture on a paper all the details of your debt situation, and then make a plan to chip away at it, because every time you chip away at it, you're going to enhance your self-worth and your net worth, your confidence, women, about getting your money under your control so that you can be the boss of your business and your money. Pop over. We have a bunch of mistakes that I've done some video series on, so you know the drill. We'll have a link in the entry below. And until next time, let's have compounding work for us. That means we have investments in the market instead of having compounding work against us in that debt scenario. To your empowerment, we can do it, women. Yes, we can.